Good evening. Very good evening. So we'll just wait for a while, for around 2 or 3 minutes, for everyone to join. So you can start. You all can start saying a hi once you all join in, so that I can address you. How are you all doing? I hope everyone is doing good. Hi, Shaurya. Great. So we will wait for 2 or 3 more minutes for people to join in. So we have been doing this week-long program, which is about food safety. So we have been doing this program on account of World Food Safety Day, which was on 7th of June. And that's the reason we have started. And we were trying to make more and more people and more children aware of how important it is to have safe food, have access and availability to safe food. So we have covered almost 4 topics till now, which was milk and milk products, fruits and vegetables, packaged foods. And yesterday we took up 3 small topics, which were about spices, sugar, or sweetening agents like honey or jaggery. And then we spoke about oils, ghee oil, and how we can see if they are safe for our consumption or not. Hi, Sai. Hello. We will start in a minute. So everyone, this is like tomorrow will be our last session. So today, after completing 2 more topics and learning about 2 very important topics, and how we could see if these are safe for consumption or not, we will be moving on to the concluding session tomorrow. So we will have a concluding session for everyone, and so that anyone who has not joined any of the session in between, maybe 1 or 2 days here and there, you could not make it, you were not able to join it, so please do join back tomorrow. So we will have a very small session tomorrow. We'll just have a brief of what all we should be doing, and then we will be moving ahead to a lot of question answers, because I think we were not able to take up all the questions on the last couple of days that we were being trying, because of shortage of time and all other such issues. So we will be trying to take more of question answer session tomorrow. So you all can definitely join in. You all can score good, and you are eligible for the package or the free gift that two of lucky winners will be getting once we hold the quiz, and we will be sending out the quiz to you all, so you all can appear in it. I think we are good to start. We can start with our today's session. So as I briefed you all about, so this we are doing a week-long session about food safety, and how we can check, and how as consumers we need to check if we are getting safe food, access to safe food, starting from buying techniques, how we need to buy, what all things we need to check for. Then going ahead to prevent surface contamination at home, what we all should be doing, everything is important. And then for storage, we also learned about refrigeration techniques, how we should be refrigerating, and what all what is the particular racks or what are the particular compartments in the refrigerator we should be using for all the food groups, and adulteration we learned about all of the topic. So today we will be covering two small topics, which is cereals and pulses. So cereals and pulses, as in cereals are something which comprises of your wheat, rice, poha, upma, or poha rava basically. So dalia, or maybe it can be ragi. Any of these are part of cereals or grains, we call them. And pulses are all the groups of food which includes chane, chole, rajma, matar, hara matar, or maybe white matar, not the hara fresh matar, but the white matar. And then dals, all types of dals, they all come in pulses. So we will be covering all the techniques, what all we need to check for in cereals and pulses. And then we will be having a 15, like after 15 minutes, we will be having a 5-minute session of for question answer. And then we will be moving on to particularly about non-vegetarian products, which is about chicken, egg, and how we need to check for them, what all things we need to check for chicken and eggs. It will be similar for meat and fish. So we will be talking about that, and how we need to check if they are adulterated or in bad condition or not. We will be also learning about it. So let's begin. So first I'll take up the cereals and this topic. So cereals and pulses, as I just briefed you about, it's something which is a very important part of our diet. We Indians, majorly, because many of us still in India, around 70% of people are vegetarians. So pulses and cereals become the main source of complete protein for many of the people. So it's a very important part of our Indian diet. Cereals will be anything ranging from wheat or rice grain, then jawar, nachni, ragi, bajra, all of that will come in cereals or pseudo cereals. And pulses will be dal, chana, chole, rajma, everything. So what all we do need to check when we are going to buy them. There can be particularly two ways how you will be buying the cereals and pulses. One can be a loose item or which is directly kept in the grocery store. Another one can be a packaged item. So mostly I think Indian households still prefer to have getting fresh cereals and pulses, which is always good. If you have a trusted vendor, you can always get from them. But if you are getting packaged food, similar packaged rice, or maybe packaged atta, or maybe any of the grains, dal, pulses, these days we do get them packaged as well. So make sure they are not really added with preservatives. Most of the time they do not add any preservatives in them. But what we have to be checking is, we have to check for the manufacturing and the expiry date on them. Definitely, if we are getting any packaged food, if you are getting any packaged cereals or pulses, if you are getting fresh. So what all we need to check for is, you have to keep your sensory techniques open. You have to use your senses, which is again your eyes, and particularly you have to use your texture or hands. We usually do not get any smell from pulses and grains. That's usually not possible. So we have to use our eyes and the or maybe your fingertips or senses to check if they are good quality. So what I'll show you all is, I have few grains here with me, which is white matar, which I have with me. So if you all can see, I have this. So what all you have to see here is that your any of the grains. Just a second. So I'll just show it to you. I hope it's visible. Yeah. So any of the grains, whatever you're taking, it should be definitely. I'll show you all in a katori itself. So it should be, what you have to check for is that there are no spider webs which usually start forming. So I'll also show you a sample for that later on. So you have to check for there are no spider webs, or there are no like worms, sort of small worms, green worms, which usually go around in the cereals and pulses, which start growing in them when there is a addition of moisture. If there is by any means, if there is some moisture that goes into the cereals and pulses, they get spoiled. So you have to take care of that when you're buying it. And definitely it will be the similar for expiry date. If you're checking the expiry date for packaged cereals and pulses, you can see through the package that there is no worms or there are no insects moving around inside it. That's the only way usually cereals and pulses gets is my voice not coming? Is it not audible? Can anyone just message or comment if my voice is audible? I can see one comment where it says that the voice is not audible. It's audible? It's coming audible. Okay, thank you. So yeah, so what yes, so we have to check for the same, both of the same things for cereals and pulses. And also you have to check now when we are getting grocery or when we are getting cereals and pulses from grocery stores, there is a lot of rodents as in mice usually, or rats, which starts growing in the vicinity or in the shop. So you have to definitely check for that you're not seeing any rodents nearby, or you're not seeing any like you can say waste material or waste products of rodents that is lying in those shops. That's something which is scary, and that's something which from where you should definitely avoid buying anything. So do check for this. Keep your senses open whenever you're getting your grocery. So adulteration. So once you get the grocery, what you have to do is, if you're getting a packaged product, again, like we discussed yesterday, you can just wipe it with a clean cloth during this time of pandemic outbreak, so that if you're getting something from outside, you can just wipe it. We do not want to wash it, because by mistake, if there's any moisture that goes into the cereals and pulses, it will get spoiled. So just take a good clean cloth and you can wipe the packet, or you can wipe the any bag that you're carrying or in which the cereals and pulses are there. So that you can do. Secondly, you have to, when it comes to storage of cereals and pulses, you have to always store them in airtight containers. It can be stainless steel containers or glass jars. Avoid plastic. Avoid keeping them in plastic containers. And also make sure that there is no water. So I'm mentioning this again and again, because that's the only way usually any cereals and pulses get spoiled, if they are not. So there is definitely an expiry date. If you keep and forget about any cereal or any atta or pulses for like around more than 4 to 5 months, there is definitely a growth of worms that starts happening. But the most common way how cereals and pulses can get spoiled is definitely by water. So make sure it's kept in airtight containers of stainless steel, glass, or you can use other metals like maybe copper vessels and all. There also you can keep them. Also, few people, Indians do have a tendency, or Indians do that we store grains or store gehu, or we store rice grains for a year. So in that case, if there are any preservatives added, like usually boric powder or boric acid or any other such ingredients are added to keep them good for longer, you have to make sure that whenever it is getting cooked, it is washed very thoroughly. Otherwise, also whenever you're cooking grains, whole grains, definitely not atta. If you're cooking an atta or if you're kneading an atta, you cannot wash it. But if it's whole grains, pulses, you have to always make sure you're rinsing it very nicely, and then you're soaking it before you're cooking it. So even if it's rice, even if it's usual dal, which gets cooked easily in the pressure cooker, but you should be storing them, because there are certain anti-nutritional factors. There can be certain husks, which outer covering, which might give us trouble, or which might make us cause stomach pain as well. So we have to make sure that we are keeping them soaked for at least 20 to 30 minutes and then cooking them. Rinsing them with water is very important, and post that soaking them and throwing away that water. Do not use the soaked water for cooking. It will add on the same anti-nutritional factor that is there in it. So make sure you're taking care of the same. When then we come to a common process of adulteration for cereals. So I'll just show you one experiment for that. So we will take wheat flour, which I have, like, which I usually use at home. So I've taken wheat flour here, which is this one. And what we will do is we will take half a glass of water here. So this is half a glass of water. And in this, we will just add a pinch. So I've taken a pinch of atta here, and I'll just put it on the surface of the water. So let it settle down. Just keep it, stand it for a couple of minutes. So what you have to check for here is, I will show you. So fortunately, I will again repeat, fortunately, I don't see any husks coming. So see, if you look closely, so there should be, if there are husks mixed with the atta. So why it is mixed again, just to brief you all, husk is mixed to again increase the volume. So even if you're including husk as in the outer covering, which is the chilka of the gehu. So if the chilka or the husk of gehu is also powdered and put it into the atta to increase the volume, you will usually see that if you're using this technique, how I did it, just take a pinch of atta, put it into this one, your water, and if you see anything floating on the surface, so I'll just tilt it, I don't see anything. If you see closely, there is nothing floating. It's just that the color of water changed a bit because I have added atta to it, but there is absolutely no change or no particles which I see floating. So that this means that my atta or the atta which I am using at home do not have adulteration with husk. So someone is asking, what is husk? Husk is basically, like I just told you, it's the it's your outer covering or the chilka of the of any grain. So if it's gehu ka atta, it can be the gehu ka chilka which is added. So husk is the chilka. So you can easily check if your atta is adulterated. Usually atta is either adulterated with husk or it can be adulterated with maida, for which for maida you have to make a roti, and you have to check if the taste of the roti is sweet without adding any sugar, definitely, then it means there is no adulteration. If the taste of the atta, if the taste of the atta is not sweet and it is very bland, that means there is maida added to the same. Manthan, I have just answered what is husk. Kindly refer to that. Okay. So then we will be checking for if our pulses or if our cereals get moisture in them, what happens. So like I told you, there will be some worms or there will be some jala which forms in it, and that usually causes for them to clot, or like the same way how you see spider webs. You will be able to see a web-like structure inside the pulses or the cereals. So I'll show you the same thing. So here again, I have taken, I hope it's visible. So I've taken this pulses. So if you see, I'll just get it close, should be visible. So if you see, there are, like in this pulse, there are certain web-like structure, or they have stuck to each other. That is also one very common example. If your pulses or your cereals get stuck to each other. So this one, if you see, they have got stuck to each other. If you check any dry pulses, you will always see every grain is separate. So if your pulses or cereals or anything whole grains get stuck to each other, then you have to check for this, that there is there might be some worms or some insects that has started growing in them. So make sure there is no moisture that is going in. That's the only way how your cereals and pulses can get spoiled. I can see a lot of messages coming. Husk, I have answered. Kavita Chopra, I'm not sure what question you have added. We can take up the questions now. So if there are any questions coming, we can take that up so that we can move on to the next question. What is the other way of adulterating atta? How to find out? So adulteration of atta can also be with maida, like I told you. So if there is maida in it, so you have to cook it and then see, because with the senses or doing any techniques, we won't be able to check it. When you're making a roti out of your atta without adding any sugar, if that tastes sweet, a bit sweet, definitely not sugary, but there is a sweet taste that is coming, that means there is no maida in it. If there is any maida, so your roti will not be tasty and it will be very bland, which means it will be very fika to eat. If we call it in Hindi, it will be fika to eat. Then it means that your atta might be adulterated with maida, which is a refined flour, which is not good for our health. How to store big atta bags without insects? Similarly, you are opening it, then definitely you have to keep it in an airtight container. You won't be able to keep it. In this thing, like in the bag that's you're getting it. Please store it in an airtight container and definitely make sure that there is absolutely no moisture or there is no water in your hands when you're handling the atta. So otherwise it will get spoiled. Also, atta flour, we cannot usually keep it for more than 3 to 4 months. It definitely starts getting spoiled and there can be insects or pests which starts growing in them. Also, chalk powder, how to find out? Okay, so chalk powder, again, the similar way like we have discussed in the experiment yesterday, which was about spices powder. So if you are completely mixing the atta, so I can show you all in the same one. So when this atta which I showed you all has not mixed yet, so you have to completely mix it, and when you're completely mixing it, there should be no sedimentation, which means that there should not be something which goes at the bottom of the glass and settles. So this needs to completely dissolve. It takes a little time to get dissolved, and that's why I have not shown you the experiment, but you all can try it. When you're mixing it, it should first get completely mixed. And even after mixing it rigorously, if it's not getting mixed and there is some sedimentation, that means your atta might have chalk powder in it. We cannot get rid of the insects, because once the insect starts growing, there is a lot of population and there is a very fast growth that happen. So you won't be able to clear them out after they start growing in it. Kamalpreet, which pulse is best to make sprouts? Any pulses you can use, it depends. Usually sprouts, all the sprouts do not get all the pulses do not get the sprouts at the same time. Usually moong and matki or mot, they get the sprouts very easily, whereas chana, chole, rajma, they take a little time because they have a hard covering. How to check maida is adulterated? What adulteration do you want to know for maida? I think the same questions are getting repeated. No problem, that one day I was just thinking about you guys. Ghee adulteration we have done yesterday. Kindly check our yesterday's video. I think we are good to go and we can start with our next session. Next part of our session. So we have to, we will be dealing with now is about meat and poultry. So I will show you how to check if the meat and poultry that you're getting is in good condition, or what all you need to check for when you're getting your meat, fish and poultry, and how you can check if they have gone bad. Usually they are not adulterated, but definitely it can be spoiled because they are very high, they have very high nutritional value. Microorganisms start growing on them very, very quickly, so it's important to take care that you're not contaminating, or you are not you are not adding any viruses or any bacteria or any unwanted item to your diet. So first, to clear a very major myth is about this pandemic outbreak of coronavirus. So usually many people in the beginning of the outbreak were very scared of getting anything non-veg, which is like chicken, fish, egg, anything. There is no correlation between chicken, egg, fish, or any other non-veg item or meat for that reason for COVID-19. There is no connection. You can have them if you are a non-vegetarian. You can definitely have them. FSSAI has proven and it has given that there is no requirement to refrain from using them. There is no correlation. So that you have to please do keep in mind and do not fall in the myth. So secondly, when we go out and when we get any meat and meat products, be it fish, chicken or meat, for fish, I'll tell you what all you need to check for. Anyone who is a non-vegetarian who goes to get fish with their parents, you have to check if the fish is hard enough. If the fish should not be slimy or it should not be soft. You have to check for this. And there are gills. So you kids might have learned in any, like whenever you learn about fish, there is this common thing which we get to know, which is about gills. So there is this red color gills or fiber-like substance which is there below the ear or below the side. So if this is a fish that is there, so on the sides of the fish you will see that gills. You can lift it up and see if it's red enough. If it's whitish in color, then it is not fit for consumption. It might be stale, or it might be something which is there for a long time and it's not fresh and it's not good for consumption. It should be dark red in color. And the fish, when you hold it in hand, when this is the buying technique I'm telling you, when you go out to buy them. So it should be very hard and stiff. It should not be soft, or it should not be flexible that when you press it, it should not get pressed. Do not press it very very strongly. You have to do it with light hands and then you can see. So if it's hard enough, if it's very hard and if it has the red gills, you can go and buy it. Similarly, about chicken and meat, you have to definitely check that from whichever vendor you're getting it, they have a clean outlet. They are cleaning it, and whenever they are cutting or cleaning, it should be done in front of you. It should not be taken from inside, or it should not be something which is already stored and they are giving it to you directly, because in that case it can be definitely a stale item, or it might be a previous day's item. So make sure you check and then you get it cut in front of you. When we get the meat or fish at home, it's very important that we wash it thoroughly. Thoroughly as in there should be no blood remnants, or there should be none, maybe, when it's fish, there can be those scales, fish scales which are there. Or if it's a meat or a chicken, there can be feathers or there can be hair. So you have to make sure you're very nicely and thoroughly washing them under running water. You don't have to use hot water because that will take out the nutritional value of the fish or meat. You can just use running cold water to wash it, and make sure whenever you're washing it, your sink, wherever you're washing, the kitchen sink should be empty. There should be no utensils, or there should be no other products on which you're throwing, or on which the washed water goes in. because it's highly prone to grow microorganisms, and there can be a growth of microorganisms or harmful bacteria that can start growing in them. Make sure the sink or the basin that you're using to wash them is entirely empty, and you wash it under cold water or tap water. Then you can dry and definitely keep it in the freezer. You have to keep it, all your uncooked raw meat and meat products, in the freezer. Do not keep them in the fridge section, they will get spoiled. They are living beings which are cut, so definitely it needs to be kept in a freezing temperature. It should be frozen. So that is one thing you have to take care of. Washing becomes very important in this time as well, to avoid any surface contamination. So make sure that you are taking care of that. If I show you a chicken, so usually, what we have to do is, usually when you're keeping or storing the chicken, if you're going to use, or be it fish or other meat as well, if you're going to use it in batches, that means if you've got 1 kg of chicken and you know you will be cooking half kgs, you can separate them and keep them separate, so that when you're taking it out for cooking, you're just taking out the portion that you're going to cook, which is called as thawing technique. Thawing means when something gets frozen, goes into freezing temperature, we get it to room temperature. In that process as well, there can be growth of microorganisms. So you have to take care that you are not, preferably you're not taking the entire lot out if you're going to cook half of it. So to take care of that, you can always store them in batches and take out only whatever is required, be it for fish, chicken or meat. You can always do that. So similarly, while cooking, so after you cook chicken, fish or any other non-veg, it's important that you get it to room temperature before you're storing it. They are highly susceptible to get spoiled because of the high nutrient content, which is protein, moisture and all of the other nutrients which are there. Microorganisms start growing on them very quickly, and there can be a lot of microorganisms that can grow on them. So you have to be very careful, and definitely you have to get it to room temperature and then store it. If it is a cooked item, then you can store it in the first rack of the fridge, not in the freezer, the fridge first rack, and make sure there is no raw vegetables or raw fruits which are kept along with it or on the same rack to avoid cross contamination. Okay, so then what we will do is we will talk about eggs. So we will do a small experiment as well with eggs. So when you get eggs again, try to check that the eggs do not have, so I'll show you here. So I've got an egg here. Try to check that the eggs do not have any stains or any kind of black spots or dirty or something like that. Do try to check for them. And secondly, what you can always do, a very easy to do experiment is, we can take a glass of water to see if our eggs have got spoiled or if they are stale. That means if they are, if there are, there is a spoilage, or if the eggs have got rotten, we call them rotten. So what you have to do is you have to take this egg and you have to slowly put it into a glass of water which is filled with water. So this egg should go and settle at the bottom of the glass. So you can see it has got settled at the bottom. So repeating again, this egg is not spoiled. So what I'm showing you is not spoiled. So if the eggs, which usually happens in summer, it gets spoiled in 4 to 5 days if you're not storing them in the refrigerator, they usually start floating. So when you do this, instead of this egg settling at the bottom, it will float on the surface of the water. So if it floats on the surface of the water, it means that it has got rotten and it has become light. So anything which is light, it does not have a weight, it does not get settled, it floats. So it will start floating on the surface of water, and that egg is not safe for consumption. Secondly, what you can also do is you can check whenever you're breaking the egg, the yolk, which is the yellow part of the egg, it should be intact. It should not be spread out once you put it on the plate or wherever. So if you are trying to make an omelette, when you just break open the egg, it should not, the yolk should not be broken. If it's broken, that means the egg is spoiled or it is an old egg. So it might cause bacterial infection. For non-veg or egg, it's very important that you cook it very nicely. If you're not cooking the non-veg nicely, if it's uncooked, then it can cause many infections. So make sure you're always cooking your non-veg items, be it fish, chicken, meat, or poultry, or eggs. It should be very nicely cooked, thoroughly cooked, and then should be consumed. I think we are almost done with our the topic. We can take up the questions. So whatever questions are coming, please do let me know. We can take up the questions. Kavita Chopra, you need to wait for a while because while talking, we are not able to answer the questions. Kindly wait for a while. See, eggs cannot be adulterated. Eggs can be the chicken from where you're getting the eggs. That chicken can be adulterated with hormones, but we cannot really check them like this at home. There are no such techniques. There are hormones which might be injected into the chicken, but it is not directly into the egg, but the chicken which is laying the eggs. So that's not an adulteration. Basically, it's something which is a chemical treatment, we can say, and it's definitely harmful. It is increasing day by day. So you can always check with the vendor wherever you're getting it, that you're getting fresh poultry and you're not getting something which is applied with hormones. Okay, so when you check, see, you order anything online, be it fish, chicken, or any other thing, you cannot check it directly, right? So it will be only when you get it at home. So when you get it at home, it is the similar techniques that you need to check for what I explained earlier. You have to check for the stiffness. You have to check if the meat is red in color. If this is a fish, then you have to check for the gills and it should be stiff. It should not be soft. That's very important. You can keep eggs at room temperature. In this season, when it's not very hot, you can definitely keep eggs in room temperature for at least a week. They do not usually get spoiled. What happens if there is moisture in atta? I think I explained it earlier. So if there is moisture going in the atta, it will start to become clot or it will get stuck to each other, which will be like a clump that will form, and also there will be worms which will start growing in them if it is kept for longer. In chicken or fish, if you're preserving it at home, like I explained you can just keep it like that. And if you're storing it for a very long period, which I usually do not recommend because definitely the nutritional value goes down if you're freezing it, but you can add a little bit of salt to it and freeze, and you can keep it for a very long time. It do not get spoiled, but definitely the nutrient content will get hampered. So try to have fresh chicken, egg, chicken, fish, like as much as possible. You can store it for like 2 to 3 days, not more than that. We are almost at the end itself, so we can start taking off questions now. How we can check the purity and freshness of frozen foods. So frozen foods, whenever you're getting it, Nehal, so you have to check for the manufacturing and the expiry date. Always frozen food have a lot of preservative added to them, which is usually salt or sodium. So I would personally recommend not to go for frozen food as much as possible. Try to take fresh food as much as you can so that you're not including a lot of preservatives in your diet. But to check if they are good quality or not, the similar techniques will apply. It's important to follow the instructions which are given on the packet for thawing, because it depends product to product, but you have to check for the instructions which are usually given for thawing. I hope that answers your question, Nehal. Vaishali, a day before yesterday, I boiled eggs, and after boiling, few were off-white and yellowish white part. What can be the reason? It's okay. It can be that way. Anupreet, I just mentioned the same in the entire session, how to check chicken or fish if they are fresh. My pleasure, Nehal. So we will conclude the session. You can keep on posting the questions. So after concluding, we can again take up the questions. So we learned about the storage or the safety techniques for cereals and pulses, how we can check by when we are buying them as well, how we can check if cereals and pulses are good quality or not, what we have to check for if we are getting any like maybe packaged cereals or pulses. Do check for their manufacturing and expiry date and FSSAI license. And if you're getting it from a store directly, grocery shop directly, check for the quality, use your senses like we did, and you have to definitely check around if they have any rodents or rats going on in the shop. Do not prefer buying from them, because there can be some or the other infestation of the rats and rodents by them. So try to take care of that. Secondly, we have to take care that we are keeping them very well. If we are keeping them, if you're not storing them in an airtight container, glass or steel, then they'll start developing moisture in them and they'll start getting spoiled sooner. Also, you cannot store them for long time, especially if they are powder like atta or any grain flour. You cannot store them for more than 3 to 4 months. Even if you're storing them, it should be definitely kept well and in airtight containers. If you stay in a very humid temperature, you can also refrigerate them. You can keep them in the freezer, they stay good for longer, but definitely not more than the expiry date, whatever is mentioned. Also, we checked about how we can see if atta or is adulterated with husk, or if it's adulterated. I also explained you if it's adulterated with chalk powder. And we saw what happens to the pulses if they start growing worms, or if they start growing insects on them. They get stuck to each other, they get joined to each other, and there is a spider web like structure which starts forming in them. So you have to check for these things. And you have to always wash the grains very nicely before using them, and store. Definitely soak them before you cook them. Then we spoke about non-veg, how we should be checking them. So fish and meat and chicken, you have to check for the freshness. For fish, you have to check for the gills. You have to check if it's stiff. Stiffness is the same for all the meat. None of the meat should be very soft to hold. It should be stiff. And also reddish color. It should not be very pale or white in color. That definitely means that the blood cells has died, which means that it is a stale product, or which was there for a longer time. For chicken and meat, make sure you are insisting the vendor to cut it in front of you. You should not be taking whatever is kept, and if he gets it to you directly and weighs and give it to you, do not take it. It should be cut in front of you. We do not usually recommend frozen meat because of the high preservative content, but if you are using them, do check for the manufacturing and expiry date, and also the thawing technique is very important so that you're not spoiling them, and follow the instructions which are given on the package. Also, we did an experiment for the eggs to check if the eggs are good or not, and we could see that the egg that I am using at home is not has not spoiled, and it's definitely good for consumption. We also learned how we should be storing them, if it's in cooked form or uncooked form. Uncooked meat and meat, fish and poultry should go in the freezer section. Cooked will go in the first rack of the refrigerator, and it should not be combined. It should not be kept along with the along with the any raw fruits or vegetables. Paneer adulteration, Nehal, we have covered about paneer and dairy products in our first lecture. Kindly check with that. What was your second query, Nehal? What is your question, Manthan? How to see if the chicken is good or not? The entire session is about that. I have repeated it twice. Kindly recheck the video. You will be able to see what all we need to check to see if the chicken is good or not. You want to know what about paneer? Yes, so like as we have already concluded, so we just Nehal, you can just let me know what you want to know about paneer so that I can just take up the last question and then we can conclude. Adulteration of paneer. So paneer adulteration, definitely if there is a lot of chalky things, it usually is adulterated with some starch or chalk in it. So you can check for the same with your hand, like you can check the paneer that you're getting if it's very silky, or if there is some whitish color of thing which is coming on the surface, that means it might be adulterated with some powdered milk or some starch or something. So you can check for that. You can check with the smell as well. Use your sensory techniques to check if any product is good. So I think we are good for today. And let's join back tomorrow. We will have a concluding session tomorrow at 5 p.m. itself, and we will take up the questions and queries, and then we will have a quiz which we will be sending it to you. I think someone was asking about if the quiz will be held tomorrow. We will be sending the quiz to all you guys so you can answer, and we will be going ahead and choosing like 2 lucky winners will win the prizes. Thank you so much. Have a very good day ahead. Bye bye. Take care. See you all tomorrow. Thank you so much.